All right, so now we are going to create a universal ad. So that way it can be placed universally anywhere. Universal just means that it shows up on all placements. And that way we can get the highest amount of reach and reach a lot of people, so that way we can increase our conversions, and so that way we have a large enough audience size. So over time, no matter what, if people are on during the holidays, or they're off during the holidays, or they're on the weekends but they're off their social media during the week, either way we're going to have a large enough audience size to always be reaching people and getting conversions. A lot of times people mess up by narrowing their audience too much. They get way too specific, and then what they realize is, they're not reaching anybody and they're not getting conversions, and they're like, maybe I'm targeting the wrong person. Well, that's actually not the case. They're just over specific, and those people just aren't online because they've gotten so specific. People aren't even getting on social media. They're not checking Facebook. They limit everything, and that's the wrong way to do it. And what you want to do is expand all of your placements. You want automatic placements. You want all areas you can reach people, because that's going to give you the best chance of converting. You got to really trust the Facebook algorithm, because it's really in your favor if you let it. But if you try to play against it, it's going to beat you. So without further ado, let's create the universal ad. So the first thing we do is hit create ad. And we'll just go ahead and use a campaign we already have. You should have already created a campaign from the previous videos. And we'll use an existing ad set for this one too. So the first thing that we want to do is, if we want to have our Facebook page selected, the one that you're going to be running your ads on, and then a lot of times people will skip Instagram account. This is very important. You don't want to skip it. You want to select an Instagram account that you'll run ads from. Now listen, if you don't have an Instagram account, that's totally okay. Just go ahead and press the drop down arrow anyways. It's going to populate your Facebook page, because you can actually use your Facebook page name and profile picture as your Instagram account. They'll create one for you, and that's really nice. So no worries if you don't have an Instagram account. Just select the drop down and still click your Facebook page, because it'll still work. The next thing is, we don't want to do carousel or collection right now. We're going to select single image, because single images or single videos, as long as they're landscape, they're going to be able to be placed anywhere. And you might think like vertical can be placed anywhere. Well, it can be placed on any Facebook platform and Instagram platform, but you're forgetting about the third-party network, which is actually reaching people on different websites. The vertical just doesn't work. So it's really important to have landscape, because it will work on other websites. So the next thing you want to do is choose a landscape image or video. Either one works as long as it's landscape. And landscape just means it's this way. It's like long ways. So it looks horizontal like this. That's landscape. So once we do that, we don't want to do automatically crop, because it's going to end up squaring it, and we don't want to square. A lot of times that's okay if you have a 1080 by 1080. Like, that's good. That's really nice. That works perfect too. But landscape is usually the best, not only because it might not be recommended, but because it ends up shortening the actual length of the ad. And the shorter the ad, believe it or not, the less somebody has to scroll to see the headline, the better. Because if they can see the headline, the button, and the body of the ad copy, all in one view, like, you've hit a home run. That means they get all the information they needed in one single view. If they have to scroll just a little bit just to see the next part, that's risking your conversions already. So let's go ahead and place our text in here, and I'll show you what some ad text might look like for me. But I usually start off with a one-liner. So like, the very first thing you want is like one line. You don't want your very first line to run over two lines. It's okay if it does, but the reason you really want to focus on one line is because of this exact reason. It's going to show it. If it's longer than, if your sentence runs to the second line, then it's not going to show. And that's a problem, because you want people to be able to read your very first ad text right away and be able to get the message clearly. So like, I even shortened down return on ad spend and return on investment. People know what these are, especially the people who I'm targeting. So I can shorten these things to make sure that it shows up in the actual ad. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you have a link. A lot of times on Facebook and Instagram, people will click these links. So that's really nice too. And you want to keep this under 1,500 characters. So anything longer than 1500, it's not going to show up on Instagram, which is very important. You want the Instagram placement. Next thing you need to do is you need to place your URL, the landing page which you plan to send people to. So I like to place it right, and then hit show advanced options. Then you want to place the display link here, but you're going to remove the / and you're going to remove the www dot. So that way you just have your actual domain name. That's the only thing you want. And the reason is, I can't stress this enough, I see so many times, let's go to the desktop placement. I see so many times where it's like https www.domainname.com / landing page - page 2, and it's like the longest thing ever, and people can't even read it. It just looks annoying. And like a lot of times what will end up happening is, people will look at an ad, and like sometimes people won't click on ads. Like it's just like part of their like human behavior. And the thing they'll do is they'll actually just read your domain name and type it in. But imagine if they're like, your domain name's like way over here because you have all this junk right before it, like the HTTPS and all that. Like you don't want that there on your display. You just want your domain name. It's pretty easy to read. They can say, oh, okay, I can type that in right now. They can literally type your URL in if they wanted to. A lot of times people do that. They just want them to click the button or click the link. They'll just type it in. And if they can't like read it, then how are they going to end up typing your domain name in? Because either way, it's going to end up becoming your traffic, but you want to make sure it's very visible. So make sure that your display link is just your domain name. The next thing you want to do is have a headline, and you want to keep it short. The more you can make your headline, the shorter your headline, the better it's going to look on mobile. A lot of times people will just be looking at desktop and they'll say, oh, this looks amazing. The headline looks great. And then they go to like mobile and it's like running off. And I'll show you an example. Imagine if I'd spelled out Facebook in this case. Here's what ends up happening. It runs off and then it removes my sub headline text for my ad. And I don't want that, because now that's a less of a chance of me getting more information across in my ad. I want to deliver as much info as possible so that way people can get everything they need to make sure that they need to click forward. And if I don't do that in a concise and quick way, then you're losing conversions. So in order to make sure that this headline shows, I just end up shortening it. I just change Facebook to FB, and it still gets the point across. People still know what that means. It's very obvious. And then you see how that subheadline populated right away. Next thing you notice is how I get 3x ROI using Facebook. Even though that's also pretty clear that that's Facebook, I still don't like those 3 dots hanging off on the subheadline. So I'm going to go ahead and shorten that. A lot of times people won't use the newsfeed link, which is this right here. So let's go ahead and place a shorter one, and you see how it populated there? Let's look at that again. It's running off on mobile. People constantly forget about this. You shorten it right there. Now the dots are gone, and now it looks much more clean and everything's visible. You can see the domain, you can read the headline, and you can read the subheadline, which is the newsfeed link description. It couldn't be more obvious. Then the learn more button, you can test different buttons. Some are shorter, some are long. You can do no button. Some people do that, and that's okay because that gives you more room to type. A lot of times, Learn More and Shop Now have just like over time proven to win against no button at all. Then the next thing you want to do is check all of your placements. So this looks good. Everything is in view. Instant articles. You see how the question's showing up, the headline showing up, the image is showing up. Question shows up, headline shows up, image shows up, every single placement. This one's not showing, but that's video. We don't have a video. We have a single image. We're going to get every placement but the video, obviously. And then you see how the display shows up here. Imagine if you had your actual, look what happens if we didn't have that display link. Watch. Well, it ended up working that time, but usually it just runs that HTTPS all the way across, and your link will literally run off on this placement. It just looks horrible, and it looks like very Spamish, and people will flag it. This placement as well, it looks very clean. You just want to go through and make sure all of them look really nice. See, now we're placed on Facebook Stories. We're on Instagram Stories, and you can see how the landscape image fits perfectly on the actual story, and it actually colors the background for you. You can even customize your ad placement if you wanted to. I mean, you could edit it, you know, and then change it up if you wanted to. You can go to the text. I mean, you could literally do anything. So I like to use how it auto generates it. That's in favor of the algorithm. It dynamically changes it. Sometimes, you know, if you end up changing the text to white, it could just like be transparent because the background might be white, you know, like things happen like that. So this works. Every single placement, it looks like it's working. Yep. So other than the video placement, which we don't have a video, it makes sense. All the placements are there, even Messenger stories. So that's perfect. Yep. So that is how you set up a universal ad, and that is it. Then you just want to name it. And if you remember our naming conventions, it's the first line, the image, and then the headline. So in this case, I'll just name this one I just take like 2 keywords out of the headline and place it, and then that's it. And you would just hit review and publish. And we'll go ahead and publish that. Now what we're going to do is we are going to duplicate ad engagements. So what that basically means is we want to increase the amount of people engaging with our ad without actually spending money on having to focus on engagement campaigns, which is just ridiculous. So we can actually do that by, what we'll do is, in order to get this ad to be in every single audience, we need to go ahead and duplicate it. So we need to find our ad. Here it is, and you can see that it's not in any other audience. It's only in this audience. We'll hit duplicate, and then we're just gonna hit add to all, and then we know that this ad is in the audience lookalike 1% scheduled 30 days. That means that we don't want to duplicate it into the same audience again, because that'll create 2 of the same ads in the exact same audience, and that's not good. We only want 1 ad in each audience that is the same. So we'll remove that one. Now we'll hit duplicate. And now we have our ad in every single audience. They're not overlapping ads, and the audiences aren't overlapping either. And what we can do is we'll just hit publish. Now, Facebook has set it up to where if you duplicate into different audiences the same ad, your engagements should end up showing up on each ad, but there's some risk to that, because a lot of times people do this, and then they'll end up seeing that one of the same ads in this audience has 5 likes, but the same ad in this audience has 2 likes, and they don't understand why. It's because a lot of times it just doesn't work when you duplicate into different audiences. Your engagement won't show up collectively. So that's a risk that we don't want to take. So what we need to do is, in order to ensure that we have this exact ad in every single audience, and if this audience is being shown this ad and people are engaging with it, it's increasing the engagements for this audience. We want all of these audiences to be engaging with the exact same ad. We cover more ground this way. So the best way to do that is by looking at the ad we created, Facebook post with comments, and then we're literally just taking this exact line right here. We're going to copy the ID, and then we're just going to select every ad except for the one we originally created. So we'll click all of them except that one. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to keep one ad that we don't place an ID in, because we want to be able to edit it later on. And if we don't do that, then we might end up preventing ourselves from ever changing the ad. So use existing post. Then we're going to hit enter post ID, and then we're just going to place that post ID that's not true. There we go. Now we have entered the post ID and it's pulled this exact ad in every single one of these. Now, no matter what, whenever we engage with this ad, it's going to show up engagements on all of these. And I'm going to show you an example right now. So I'm going to like it. It's going to show up. And now we will literally just view the ad again. Now it shows that we've liked it here. Let's look in the other audience to be sure. Let's check this one. Yep, showed up there. The third one. Now you see that every single audience now sees that somebody has engaged with this ad. So what's going to end up happening is engagements are going to come in faster because you have more people seeing the exact same ad, even though they're all in different audiences, which is really nice because you can stack up social proof very quickly. And that is how you create a universal ad and duplicate ad engagements properly.